My name is Sadiqua Bynum. And so getting into stunt work was a journey, definitely. I did gymnastics all growing up, starting from the age of 2, all the way up through college. I competed collegiately at UCLA. And so I graduated with my sociology bachelor's. And so I wanted to get into social work and quickly realized that that was not the most active route that I wanted to take. While I was coaching gymnastics at the time, and my gymnastics coach just suggested stunt work, and I didn't know what it was. I was like, anything active, please. And I have a few alumni that also went to UCLA: Heidi Moneymaker, Natalie Padilla, Vanessa Zamaripa, Alette Craddock, all like very amazing alumni who, paved the way for future stunt women from UCLA. And so I reached out to Natalie Padilla, and she was like my immediate sister. We had like we went to go get some food, and she just told me all the places to go and train, people to meet, try and network. And for me, I'm very much so quiet introvert. So doing all the networking was the hardest thing. But, sometimes we have to do things that we're not necessarily the most comfortable with doing. So just went to the networking events, met a lot of amazing people, and started training. And I started with training Taekwondo, and just to kind of get the fighting basics down. And then I went to like judo, I would do kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, started training firearms, and started doing driving and horseback riding. So I really wanted to make sure that I was checking as many boxes as I could, and just kept rolling. Yeah, my first stunt job was I got to double Angela Bassett on American Horror Story.
I saw that and I was like, so I rewatched it and I was like, oh my God.
It was awesome. Yeah, and that was my first stunt job ever. And I was like, this is what I need to be doing for sure. So yeah, ball kept rolling, and here we are, Warrior Nun, Sister Dora. Very, very grateful and thankful.
So how did you become involved with Warrior Nun?
I had a stunt coordinator who reached out to me and asked about my availability and wanted to connect me with Sarah. And so as a producer of the show, I realized that she had known of the coordinator before. They worked on other projects, and so they were looking for me to double one of the actresses on the show from the first season. And so when I was offered the job, I fully went into the show wanting to represent a strong woman of color. And so that was, no matter what show I work on, that's always what I want to present us as, in this light of just strong characters. And so I was really excited. I met Kai, I met Lee, and I met all the stunt girls when I got there. But just being able to be interviewed and to be able to audition for Sister Dora was a journey in itself, because it wasn't necessarily what I was brought onto the show for. So I was just very thankful to be in that space and to be able to bring a character to life from my own perspective, my own light. And then with Simon just opening the doors for me to be able to express myself in that way, and for him to trust me to step into that type of a role was life-changing, honestly, because I feel like it not only for Warrior Nun and for Sister Dora, but also for my life. It was at a time when I wanted to explore my greatest potential, and I hadn't felt like I had reached that yet. And so, I got to flip in that show for my fight scenes. I got to do really cool falls. I got to do like all my firearm training. And I mean, there's so much that just as stunt performers, we put in like hours and hours and hours, just as anyone does for their job. And so a lot of it can be very physically demanding. And sometimes you put in all your hours and then you get a role where you don't feel as utilized in the ways that you're training. And so I told Kai, the stunt coordinator or fight coordinator, that I wanted to flip. No matter what, I just wanted to put one flip in, and I got to do two in my fight scenes. So, and then there was also like at the last scene when I was able to kind of display my own training, I just felt like in the state of where I wanted to be in terms of like my own personal growth, in terms of being around such amazing people, like all of the stunt team, the crew cast, like everybody was just so involved with making Warrior Nun what it is today. And so, yeah, I'm just grateful for the journey and grateful for Sister Dora. In my journal, I write all the time, like, I love Sister Dora. She like gave me a new skin, it was like the opposite way of like stepping into, number 10 on the call sheet, and whatever that name is what you represent. It was almost the opposite. Like I saw my name and I was like, okay, I'm gonna, Sister Dora's feeling this today. I had like playlists that I would play before I would like have my fight scenes. And I really, from every detail, I wanted to make sure that I was representing Warrior Nun, Simon, the cast and crew, women of color, and Sister Dora as a whole. It's not just one name, you're representing so many names, so many different genres of personalities and perspectives. So yeah, I'm so beyond grateful.
So were you talking about Sarah Spring, the producer?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So can you tell me the logistics that were involved with that then?
Logistics in terms of getting hired or meeting her?
Yeah, like basically like the stunt coordinator got you in touch with her. How did that play out?
Yeah, so the stunt coordinator that I worked on a show with him before. His name is Hank Amos. I worked with him on a show before and we clicked really well. I think he saw my potential, and at the time I wasn't able to fully bring myself. And so I remember him saying like, just keep doing it, keep training, you're gonna get a role, like just keep doing what you're doing. And he reached out to me in email and was like, there's a show that's being filmed. I think you would be great in terms of being involved with it. I would love to connect you with Sarah, who was Sarah Spring. I'd love to connect you with Sarah. I've worked with her before. So I think Hank and Sarah had worked on a show previously. And so I'm not sure how the conversation worked on their end. But then Sarah reached out to me through email and she just was saying like, hey, we're working on, or we have this show coming up. We want you to be involved with it as a double for one of the characters. And so from there, it just kind of felt like she reached out to Kai and Lee for the like official interview for the stunt team. So yeah, and then I had an interview with Kai and Lee and Kuko, and then they brought me on, told me my hours. And
so from interview to when you're in Spain, what was that timeline? I know this has been like 3 years ago.
Oh gosh. Maybe a month and a half, I think.
Oh, wow.
That's
quick.
Yeah.
That is a long time, I would say, because a lot of time there was a job that I worked on where it was in Canada. And they were kind of like back and forth. We might bring you out, we might not. And they emailed me the day before. Was it the day before? The day before that morning. And they sent me a flight for the next morning to leave to Canada.
Wow.
So they had everything already booked, ready to go. I didn't even get the official word that I was hired on the show yet. So there's times when I had packed basically like in an hour. But so the month that I had from when I had the interview to where I was brought out was it felt long, because I was so used to having, especially for stunt jobs here, I can get a text today saying, hey, are you available on Wednesday and Friday of this week. So you don't really have that much time to prepare mentally. You just kind of do your best, you know. I think sometimes it's hard to put to words when I try and describe the experience, because it's more than just like the role, you know, it's more than just what you see on screen. There's so much more, I guess, involved in terms of that was my first international stunt job that I've ever had. And so, especially for that length of time working, I was the only like American on the team. So there was a lot of like just questions, you know, how do things work out here versus in the States? And, you know, like language barriers and like just so many things that I loved immersing myself in. So yeah, it was a really cool experience to see from start to finish of the journey from an email saying, hey, we'd love to meet you, to I saw one of the fandom, the art, or one of the fan arts, and it was just like that's me. Like someone like made that of me, you know.
Huh?
So it's really cool. Yeah.
Well, so like obviously you were, you're a gymnast. You said that, you went from being a collegiate gymnast into stunt work, and like you did multiple levels of sort of like training. I guess that transition, is it, because I know gymnastics in general is a pretty strict sport and passion. So
Mm.
like, did you see like a quick or easy transition into stunt work, or was it like more fluid in terms of like what you were able to kind of call the shots on and to match whatever the scenes are?
I would say it was a mixture of both in different aspects. So like with gymnastics, we're guided and encouraged to land gracefully. Everything, just try and make look as graceful as possible, like making hard look easy, basically. But falling, you try and fall gracefully. So when I started training falls and fights for stunts, I was told like, oh, you have to like dirty it up. Like it doesn't look real, like you fell. And I was like, we're not like, you know, so I was having to switch my mind of like, how do I make it look physically more aggressive or just more dirty than like rolling out of it, or, you know, like what we're used to, like protecting yourself, you know? So there's sometimes where you will take a fall and you have to roll out of it. And if body language or body muscle memory over time, the longer you keep the movements in your body, the longer it takes to get out of it. So I think that was something that was hard, was to kind of like still protect myself, make sure that I was being safe, but also making sure that I was physically representing how I wanted it to look. So that was one thing that I think was on the more difficult side. Also, in terms of fight choreography, I would say it took a long time for me to bring the strength and control through my movements. Just kind of like controlling the power. And then also it felt like I was able to pick up on a lot of things really fast. But then when you're doing fight scenes, you're doing them with someone else. So versus with gymnastics, you can, you know, fully express yourself and not worry about hitting someone in the face. But if you're doing a fight scene and someone comes too close to you, if you throw your punch too far, you're gonna hit them in the face. So it's like learning distancing, learning spacing, learning camera angle, like all of those things were part of the stunt training process that I think was supported by gymnastics, and learning like how to think quick on your feet, how to fall safely, how to make sure that your other friends are safe, knowing when to use mats, knowing when not to use mats. So yeah, there's a lot of crossover, I would say. Yeah.
Did you, you were saying like how you could accidentally get hit in the face and everything. Did you ever like get injured or accidentally injure somebody else in it?
Yes, it's happened a few times, and I've had like busted lip, I've had black eye. There was like a scene where I did where we were like in a scene, and so they were like throwing things and I was supposed to like dodge them, and then one time I dodged in the way that it was like a pipe, and like the PVC was like a little behind, so the plastic was sticking out. And so the plastic like sliced my forehead. So I have like a little, so there's times when I've hit someone in the nose accidentally. So, and it sucks because you don't think about all like the accidents happen, and so you have to kind of go into it realizing and understanding that. But I think as women, there's that kind of nurturing trauma response that your mind doesn't know. When I got hit in the lip, my mind didn't know, oh, this is just a fake thing. This didn't really actually happen. We go into our fight or flight response where like, for me, like my heart started beating really fast. I kind of felt like my mind kind of switched. I went into this like kind of flight mode where I wanted to like back away, and I got very like everything changed because I wasn't aware that what happened was real or fake, I think having a mental health support system on set is very essential, because there's times when, like in fight scenes, you might hit someone, you might get hit, or you might have to participate in a scene that calls upon a past trauma. And you might not necessarily know that it's affecting you in the moment, but when it's an action and you're involved in it, you give yourself fully to that scene and you walk out of it and you're like, I kind of feel like something switched. I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm just gonna go back to crafty and like hang out with friends. Like there's some things that I think are involved with fight scenes, just scenes in general, So yeah, there's times when I've gotten hit, there's times when I've hit, and it takes a toll on the mental space, I think, sometimes. So
I didn't even think about that. Like, I know if like I even slam my head into something, my automatic response because of past traumas is like I get one, angry, and two, I'm like, I need everyone, like, don't talk to me, don't ask me if I'm okay. Give me 5 minutes, because my brain is in triggered mode. So I didn't even think about that, especially for stunt doubles, because obviously you guys, you have your own history, you have your own life and everything. You're humans.
yeah.
So obviously, like, you're going through the motions of all of these, and then getting hit in the forehead with a PVC pipe, I'm sure is going to be like, oh, hey, let me go sit down for a little bit and just be by myself.
That's a new aspect that we have not heard about before. Is that something is there a union in the United States for stunt people?
Yeah, we have SAG-AFTRA, which is like our union, but I would say, and we have representatives who come on set. They're not on set for every single scene, for every single day, So if we needed that support, we could call them. But at that point, if you're calling someone to share what happened, I feel like you should have a therapist. Like that would be where I would guide someone else. So if they have like a SAG therapist or a SAG mental health representative, someone like that was on set, I would say would be where I would gear it towards. But yeah, we do have a union obviously that protects us and on that aspect.
And so how did you is there a certain qualifications to get into that union?
Yeah, so for us to get into SAG, I know there's different routes now. How I got into SAG it's called Taft-Hartley. So it's basically like I called it my golden ticket, but basically it's if you work on a show where they need a specific skill or a specific person to do a certain thing, they can Taft-Hartley you, which is like usually to get into SAG, you have to work on 3 SAG, I think it's 3 SAG, or not 3 non-union productions, and then I think it's 2 SAG productions. And so in order to work on those shows, you have to have or eventually get your SAG card. And so for me, I got Taft-Hartley. I worked on a gymnastics show, and they needed just some like gymnasts kind of flipping and filling a scene. And so on that show, they wanted some UCLA gymnasts to work in the show. So they brought me on and they Taft-Hartley'd me for that show. And so after that, I worked on, after that one was American Horror Story. So that was my second one. And so with the second SAG show, I was able to get my SAG card. So that was my route. I know people have different ways of getting in. I think getting tafted is now a little more common, but I think back then it was not as common. So, I mean, you know, it's ever changing, but yeah, I would say that's how I got into SAG.
And how long have you been in SAG?
7 years? Yeah, 7 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were first getting into the stunt, did you go to the different, like when you went to Taekwondo, did you go to a different facility, or is there a certain like training facility? Like, how does that work?
Mm-hmm. So my route was I wanted to be as authentic in my movements as possible. So if I was training horseback riding, I wanted to go to a wrangler who knows horses. I wanted to make sure that I knew how to saddle, how I knew how to ride. Everything that I wanted to do, I wanted to do authentically. So with training Taekwondo, I went to a school, and that has a belt system, and to make sure that I was kind of like doing everything in the most authentic way. Same thing for boxing, I think gave me the strongest foundation in terms of fighting, and knowing that technique is key. So if I can make it look like choreography, or I can actually know how to do this in real life, you know? And so that's kind of the route that I took, was making sure that what I was doing was from a way of knowing that it's not only choreography, but it's the authenticity of knowing that if from someone looking from the outside, if she were to do that in real life, it would cause harm. Or if that were to happen in real life, I could see that movement, you know? And so I think that's my job, is to make it look believable. And so the most important way of doing that is for me to know the knowledge of like every aspect for it to look real. So, and I enjoyed it because I got to learn so many things. I mean, I'm grateful for being able to have so many buckets that I can pull from, to know that there's the limitations are endless. Like anything goes. Skateboarding, rock climbing, like all the activities. You know, I'm like a very like, I just love movement and moving around, and like I was like, because I was in gymnastics for most of the time, I think now when I graduated and I was finished, I was like, I want to learn all the things, like as many physical movements, and from the mental aspect of just like diving in and learning. I love to learn. So just like immersing myself in experiences, I would say selfishly has been like a journey in itself, just to kind of make sure that I'm keeping up with everything and making sure that everything feels authentic.
And like you said, like you also get to like be that representation of like one, like empowering women, but also like women of color, which, you know, obviously like to anyone with a brain, the knows that like the industry still needs to grow. So like, I mean, I'm white and I'm also like, please don't whitewash this. So like, you know, it's about, you know, being aware. And you did great. Like I've watched American Horror Story. At no point did I even like realize, I was like, that was a stunt double.
Mm,
Like, you know, because like you said, like the movements are so fluid. I mean, like obviously, you know, cinematography and editing, but with movements being so fluid, you know, the typical brain isn't going to catch on to it and see it, like, so all the work that you're doing. So I saw that, I went back and watched it and I was like, holy shit. Like, so, you
exactly.
know, and then same with Warrior Nun.
Yeah. And I would say just in terms of the fluidity as well, it's a lot of communication, not only between you and the coordinator or you and the director, but also you and your own actress. Because if your actress feels like, oh, well, I wouldn't do that, or the opposite end, when I got to double Regina King and Watchmen, I felt like we had such a cohesive unit. And that was where she was like, she would come to me and ask me, hey, what do you think about this? Or like, how does this look? Or what would you do in this situation? So that like collaboration with her was amazing because it allowed me to bring myself fully so that I could be there fully for her. And that I think, I hope is more common now. Because it's not always like that, you know? So that like communication and that trust within your team and whoever you're doubling, I think plays a huge factor in the flow of making things look cohesive.
Taking a little bit of a step back, considering kind of like how you became involved with Warrior Nun, and we have been told multiple times and now by you that you came in from this for the stunt work. But how was it like being approached to like become Sister Dora? Like, what was your reaction?
I was just so excited. Yeah, I was so excited because I had wanted to do a stunt acting role. There aren't that many roles where you see the the combination of the two. And for me, I I love being a stunt double, but I felt like I was cutting my performances short because I would be in it, I'm doing the fight, I'm doing whatever I have to do, and then you pause, and then the actress comes in. And so it's like you get pulled in and pulled out of the moment. Where for me, I'm like an in the moment person, you know? So for Sister Dora, I was like, I get to do all of it. I get to fully bring myself like from start to finish, from like beginning, from action until cut. I get to bring myself fully and not have to worry about matching someone or hiding my face from camera or, like all the things that you have to think about when you're a stunt double. You're trying to hide yourself. It's almost like you put like a veil, but still try and bring yourself enough. Whereas with Sister Dora, I was ready. I was ready. I was like, I've trained for this. I've mentally prepared for this. I have like an acting coach. I was doing acting classes. Like I was really putting in the time before I even got called to do Warrior Nun in the first place to present myself in the best way possible for the actress. So whatever the character was, I would make sure that I was prepared. And so when I got approached to do Sister Dora, yeah, I was just so excited. So excited.
Did you have to audition for it?
Yeah, he gave
Okay.
Simon gave me two scenes to do that were in relation with Warrior Nun and just kind of what was going on in the scenes. And so with those auditions, they were very relative to the character. So it was almost like Simon fed me a little bit about my character while I was preparing for Sister Dora, if that makes sense. Like the audition pieces had little pieces of like, oh, well, I train, like I train capoeira, I train taekwondo, and I would love to be a part of your team, So it's kind of like I was being fed, okay, I get to do capoeira, and I get to do taekwondo, and I get to be part of the team. Like all the things that I was auditioning for, I also was mentally preparing and saying like, I get to present myself, in these ways. So
What was the very first scene that you had as Sister Dora?
The first scene was when the team is coming, the OFS team is coming up in the vans, and we are like the reinforcement. So we're kind of there helping the team prepare. And so that was before I was like Sister Dora with the whole outfit on. That was when I was still, we were in like hoods and just a little more incognito.
That slow motion of like the van opening and you guys just holding buns.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And we're coming out with all our gear, like,
Yep.
we are ready for whatever happens. We have our things ready.
So by that point, that you already know that you were gonna be Sister Dora, or like were you just on the mindset that like I'm the stunt double, so that's what I'm gonna do here, and then you had to switch to like, oh, I'm Sister Dora now.
Actually, yeah, I had already known that I was
Okay.
going to do Sister Dora. So it was cool because I didn't have to do the switch. I knew that like, what would Sister Dora do in this scene? Like, how would she bring out this case? Who would she connect with? Who does she know is, you know, in terms of the other nuns who are a part of the scene, how would she want to connect in this scene to be a part of them, you know? Like, I think for me, in terms of the role with Sister Dora, she knows how powerful she is, and she also has gone through a lot in the past, but she also wants to be a part of a strong team. And so this is kind of like her chance to prove herself and her chance to say like, hey, I know we're new, but I want to kick some ass with you, you know? So yeah, it was really cool to be able to bring myself through that scene, and then so on and so on.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I
we got
really
that
like
impression whenever they came out of the van. We were like, oh, these are the reinforcements, and the reinforcements we trust.
yes.
Yeah.
It's like that's kind of like the moment when you're watching like a movie or something, you're like, shit's about to go down.
The slow motion van door opening is like, oh, okay, now.
Yep. Reinforcements are there, like and then the music cue and the movements of like even like, you know, the way of people like getting out of the van. And like you said, like even like grabbing a case, like again, like that fluidity of body movement to match the shot. Then, you know, the editors take that music and add it to the shot, like that cohesive unit of basically everybody working on a series, but you being like that primal, like that focus, and you killed it. I mean, the scene, I think it's Beatrice, like you're fighting, and I'm pretty sure it's you know, Christina who goes like, who are you? And you're like, I'm Sister Dora. And it's like, damn, like just like, like, yeah, you are.
Yeah. I relive those moments. I do. Like, I really do. It's amazing. Yeah.
Whenever you talk about like this is what Sister Dora would do, it sounds like you read the comics, or was it more kind of like your own interpretation of the character of like this is what I want to bring?
The second. It was more of this is what I want to bring. And I also wanted to step out of my comfort zone a little bit with the character. Still remain true to myself, but I also know that I am Sister Dora. I'm not Sadiqua, you know? So I can just let everything go and just bring to the screen how I would want to represent this character, Sister Dora, in front of the camera, instead of like, oh, I'm Sadiqua. Well, Sadiqua wouldn't do this, or I don't think I would do, you know, like none of those questions would arise because I was stepping into Sister Dora's skin, so I was kind of allowed to let go of all the other just worries and things that I think sometimes when you're a stunt double, you think about that. Like you're the second to the person. You're not able to fully bring yourself. So yeah, that was a really good feeling for sure.
I mean, one word that sums up Sister Dora to me is badass. Like, you brought it. Like, you made it.
Thank you.
So,
What was your like your favorite scene or stunt to perform under being Sister Dora?
I would say the first excuse me, the first fight scene where the hood comes off, the cape comes off, and it's go time, because I rehearsed it so many times in my mind, and there were so many like the fight scene. I don't know if you guys saw, I posted on my Instagram our previous fight, and the previous pre-visual fight that we had is like the fight scene that we present to the director producer and say this is how we would want to do the fight, and then changes and tweaks and all of that happen, and then you get the final product of what we do on the day. And so the scene was cut down quite a bit. I was still able to do my flips, so I was very happy about that. And when the hood came off, I was ready to go. I was like, now is the time. Like, everyone's there. The lights were going, like, you can just, like, I felt like I immersed myself in the moment. And the scene was just so fun to do because I had rehearsed it so many times with the other performers. And so we had that trust. We had that foundation, a strong foundation of knowing, like, we've done this before so many times. So now it's just time to perform it and bring it, make everyone feel like this is Sister Dora. This is how she would fight. This is how she wants to support her other sisters, So yeah, that was my favorite for sure.
did you have any contact with the costume designer? Like, any input? Did they ask you?
I love that you asked this question. They did, actually. My favorite, I would say, were the shoes that I had. Because in a lot of scenes, we don't get to choose our outfits. So we're either fighting in tank tops and no shirts, tight jeans where you can't wear knee pads, high heels where you might roll your ankle or slip. So I think the collaboration with the costume department, all of them were like, we have to show your arms, and like just the armor that we had on, like I was the only one that didn't have anything on my arms, and so they were like, we have to show your arms. And with the shoes, I told them that I wanted boxing shoes because they're the most comfortable, the most reactive, and the lightest, and they look really cool. So it's kind of like I got to put as much input into the comfortability of knowing that I'm going to be flipping and doing, a fight scene with jumping off walls and rolling and, all these things where I really want footwear that is comfortable, that's sturdy, that I know I don't have to worry about rolling my ankle in. And yeah, I'm very grateful to the costume department for being so receptive of the performers' needs in that way. So
Definitely I need to, like, I feel like I need to send a letter to, like, the person that said, like, we need to show your arms, like, thank you for your service. Sincerely, the fandom.
yeah,
'Cause that's, like, obviously, like, it's like you have this badass person, but then it's just like shredded and like, seeing the stunt performing, and then it's like also, like in true fandom honor, when people are like thirsting over you, you're like, I made it. I made it. I'm famous.
Yes. Yeah, that's really cool.
Now, how about putting on the habit, like becoming a nun? How was that for you?
That was, I feel like I kind of dropped into it very easily. Just because I wanted to drop into the scene as whatever character it was. So in Sister Dora, she's strong, she moves very strong, versus with when I was the nun, I feel like I was kind of more a little bit at a calmer state. And so it allowed me to remain at a calm state as well. And so just getting dressed and everything was a very slow process. And I just remember the costume department again, like, it just feels like I am not a nun personally, but I would want, if a nun were to watch this show, for them to feel the respect. For me, it's always from a place of respect. And so with a role that can sway either way, I didn't want to, I wanted to make sure I had everything right. And so for me, it was an adjustment, because it wasn't, you're just going in and you're fighting. You're representing a person, you're representing a community. So bringing myself into that space, wanting to present myself as, a respectful person from their perspective, I think was what allowed me to remain calm, I guess I would say, so.
I know
So you
that,
really like took in the role.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
felt the role.
I did. I really wanted to. I honestly feel like I could have done a little more research, because I know there's things that, just as with every character, making sure that you're not only bringing yourself fully into that character, but that whoever is watching is like, oh, she paid attention. She knows. Like, that's where I feel like where I want to come from. So yeah, but to the best of my ability, I tried to step into my nun role.
You did. I mean, there's lots of Catholics that watch the show, me being one of them. Yeah, like it came off flawlessly. So
Good.
So Kai has mentioned in a past interview that you helped behind the scenes so much, like that it was just like, thank goodness for her. What was it that you did? Because we didn't get to expand on that. I wanted to wait to talk to you about it.
Yeah. So I started off as a part of the stunt team. So when you're a part of the stunt team, you are producing fight scenes to present to the directors and producers for them to approve on. And so a lot of it was, we were in the stunt gym training for hours on end, making sure that we were either doing like our own personal, like if there was a move that we wanted to get down, we were training that. If there was a fight scene that we needed to refine, we were doing that over and over and over again until it was like perfect and pristine. If we were just doing our own training with partners, making sure that we were like on our P's and Q's in terms of like our reactions and working on like boxing combinations and just supporting like when we had new stunt performers that came in, making sure that they knew we were a team, and to make sure that everyone was a cohesive unit. And Kai, whenever we had a scene, before we had called action, he would say performer set, and we would shout set, and that was what kind of solidified the unity with everyone that was involved. That like we're set, we're ready to go, you know, and so that like cohesiveness, I think, is what makes a team so strong. So, and that was just Kai, like he just brought that and decided for that to be something that we always did consistently, and I loved it. I loved it because I love being a part of a team, and all the stunt doubles, like we had such a strong bond and have such a strong bond. And so to be able to have that like check, or that like, you know, that seal of like, this is why we are here, to be a part of a team. Kai did an amazing job of allowing us to all step into our own and have our own, you know, roles on the team that makes the team so strong. So yeah.
But technically, since you came in as Sister Dora, you could have been just like doing your own thing. Instead, you stayed with the stunt team and helped them train and became part of that team.
Yeah, so actually I came in as a stunt double for one of the actresses on season 1. And so I came in as a stunt double, not as Sister Dora. So I was training with the team to present, to be that character. And so while we were doing the scenes, I was the actress's stunt double, and we were going through the scenes as her. And so once the shift happened, from the actress parting ways with the show, that was when I was able to kind of step into the Sister Dora role. So at that point, there was a switch with not being a stunt double anymore as like my name on the call sheet or whatever, but I was then Sister Dora. So there were a lot more rules that were involved with that as well, because actresses have different negotiations and hours and training hours than the stunt team does. So it was a shift for me also, because I was at first stunt team, these are the hours that I work, I can stay here, okay, I'm gonna carpool here, you know, and then it shifted to, oh, well, you can't train for this amount of time because, and if I did after, it was like kind of on my own terms, because per SAG, there's also like you can only train for a certain amount of hours. So there's that shift. And then just mentally, I think I went from, hey guys, I'm still Sadiqua, even though I'm was you know, stunt double, and now I'm Sister Dora, doesn't mean that I'm a different person. You know, I'm still me. I'm still on paper. I'm still making sure that I'm doing my reactions, doing my fight scenes, training as hard as I can, making sure I'm connecting with everybody, you know. So that was a difficult shift, because it was kind of like, is she an actress or she was stunt team? Well, this is actress stuff, but this is also stunt team stuff, you know. So that was a more of the difficult transition. But again, so grateful for the stunt team and just kind of like embracing that, and for them also, I mean, they're also like stunt actresses, because they're in these roles and having to present themselves in the roles and in the scenes as their stunt double. So, we were all kind of in the journey together. So, yeah.
That was something that we've learned and talked about. I mean, just mimicking the walk, the
Mhm.
movement,
Mhm.
like, something that we don't think about because it just happens. We don't see, well, you walk different than this person. But Kai had also mentioned that, he did not want to be in a scene. Like, he did not want to be an actor. But the Alba, like, basically was like, please do it. And so he ended up doing it. But so he had one of those moments too.
Yeah, Kai's an actor. Like, I've seen his training videos, I've seen his fight scenes and his fight videos, and like he has done like acting scenes before. And so it's just awesome to have someone a part of your team that says, I'm good. I'm gonna let you guys. And just Alba wanting him so much to do the scene with him, because she knows when you're involved in a scene with someone who sees things from not only a stunt performer aspect or from an actress aspect, but knows how to bridge the gap between the two, you know how to feed your partner what they need for them to present themselves in the best way possible. So it could be a scene where you get hit and you fall, and you can still feed into that after the part of the scene because it's you, versus where sometimes in like stunt double scenes, you're the stunt double, so you get hit and you fall, and then you have to show the actress how you landed, and then your actress kind of picks up from there, so having that connective unit is awesome. Yeah, Kai's so cool.
Well, I learned recently that, I interviewed several of your teammates, and he wanted to do this dramatic, like, kidnapping scene during the interview while we were there, like have one of them like being like attacked.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I would have just died, like freaked out. I'm so glad that it didn't happen, but he had it set up to go, and Joe was all about it. Joe was gonna do it. I was like, Joe, God, come on.
Yeah. Some people decide to take their shots when they can,
Oh, well, I'm glad that he let you be as far as trying to put you up to something with our interview.
Definitely.
Or so we know.
Yeah.
Right. Might have something.
Was there a particular like stunt that was I know that you wanted to do the flips, but that was harder than others for you?
Yeah, I would just say the scene in the very beginning of or I would say it's in my first fight scene, and I do the flip and I kick someone. And when I was training the movement, I was training it in my training clothes, so I wasn't in my costume. And that's always something to keep in mind, is that if you're not on wires and you're doing a flip or you're doing something really dynamic, it can feel a lot different when you're in, full on armor and you have the things on your arms and something on your head. You have, your legs are covered, your mobility isn't as much. And, so that was one thing that was just more difficult, was that I knew I had to give like 120% more effort, because it's heavy. It's heavy, and the range of motion is not as fluid and accessible in workout clothes as it is in like a plastic thing, you know? So, but I'm so happy and grateful that I did it because I decided that I wanted to do it. So, yeah, it turned out well.
So did you have to practice like that scene of you like removing the cape?
Yeah,
It's like that superhero almost moment.
yeah, because sometimes it would get stuck, or sometimes it wouldn't like fully come off, or you have to like get everything kind of to come off. And the hoods were so big, so I had to like flip my head up and then take it off, so it would come off as one motion. And yeah.
I was thinking because I think I saw a lot of comments about that whenever we raised the question to the fandom about like bringing questions like, did they practice taking off the capes? Who picks up the capes?
Right, exactly, because you don't want to just leave the capes on the ground.
Yeah. But going into the next question, you were talking earlier about kind of like stepping into the role and just kind of like being into the scene and figuring out like how does Sister Dora feels here. What would you say was, I mean, if you had like to pick and choose, or I guess like going back into that specific point in time, like what did you think was Sister Dora's reason for like joining the OCS, or kind of like her backstory? Like what do you have in mind for her?
Yes, thank you for asking this question. So Sister Dora, previously before coming as a reinforcement, she was a part of a similar sized team of very strong nuns, and she was the only one left of her tribe, I would say, in a massacre. And so she's basically coming from a perspective of seeing all of her fellow nuns killed in front of her. And so coming into the role as Sister Dora, she's coming in with a lot of mental trauma, and a lot of hesitancy to wanting to connect again with a new team because of the pain and hurt, and sadness from her past group and her past tribe. So I felt like that was something that I wanted to present for this season, for season 2, of I'm not this like happy, joyful, yeah, this is gonna be, like I'm that's not who she is. She's dealing with a lot of pain, and so she wants to tiptoe into connecting, but she wants to show that she has her team's back, and that no matter what, she will give it her all, to protect whatever it is, whether it's the team. And it immediately reminds me of seeing also how like the whole team before the reinforcements come in, how they are so tight knit. They have the banter, they have just little drama in between, but it feels real. It feels like this team has gone through a lot to get to this point. And so for me, I didn't want to disrupt and say like, well, now I'm part of your team, so we're all just gonna be close and fun. I respect that. And so that was from where I was coming from, was this middle ground of, I have my past, I have my history, I have all the things that I've dealt with. I'm here, I want to present myself in a respectful way, but I also have you guys' backs, and I'm here to to fight. I'm here to be a fighter. I'm here to protect and to just connect with other individuals, you know, other nuns who know what it's like to fight for what they believe in. So
Yeah, that is amazing. I think that did come through, that kind of like reservedness. I mean, we see it for all the time, the nuns, like they're a little bit reserved, but you can tell with Sister Dora, that's how she came in. But at the same time, it's like, no, like I'm gonna protect you. I'm gonna be the badass at the same time. Um, that was I think that really shone through. So
I'm glad it showed through. I think sometimes it's hard to see, you know, what you present and what you want to bring to the screen may not be read in that same way from the watcher's eye, you
Yeah.
know. So thank you for that validation, I guess I would say, and just from your perspective of seeing that that's what you saw. That means a lot to me. So
We're three of many
yes.
that would provide that for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, because I agree with Charlie, like, even just, you know, when you're kind of standing in the room with, like, I believe it's like Mother Superior and Camilla and all them, and you are very reserved. Like, even though, like, you know, those are like the main characters, my focus, I was looking and I remember thinking, like, are we gonna know, like, what's like the story of Sister Dora? Like, what's her backstory? Because she comes in and she's holding guns and she's like, you know, later on she's absolutely shredded. So it's like, okay, she's like a really good fighter and she's doing flips and stuff. But in every other shot, she's also very reserved. So like it's also like, what's her story? You know, there's kind of that mystique to it.
yes, that's what I wanted to present as well. Of like, I have a story. You know, I have a story. I have past, and I got to play that middle ground of knowing that I can be strong and I can present myself as, or present Sister Dora as this fighter. But I don't feel like I need to be so outspoken about it, you know. So yeah.
I'm glad that Kelsey brought up that scene because it yeah, like now that I think about it, it's one of those that it's very highlighted, kind of like the presence of Sister Dora. Because even though like the main characters are kind of like in the front, Sister Dora is kind of like the one that you see like in the background, like who are you and what are you doing there? Like she is the one that kind of like stands out in that scene, even though like she is literally standing in the background. So that was really interesting.
That's awesome.
Mine was when Mother Superior was dying and you were just stoic in the background, like just support. Like that was just like, okay, intense scene, but my eye was drawn here too. Like
That scene was the first scene ever that I had to cry. And or not, I wouldn't say I had to cry. I wanted to cry. I wanted to allow myself to fully be immersed in the experience, in being vulnerable and showing the duality between being able to let your guard down, being able to be vulnerable, and being able to mourn, you know, in the same way as on the opposite end of not having to, being strong, and being a fighter and being a protector. There's that duality between the two. So that scene was really important for me because it allowed me to kind of let my guard down personally. And then for Sister Dora, she's just, Mother Superior allowed her to be a part of this amazing, strong team. And it was like, okay, now she's gone, you know, like this shock. and me kind of and Sister Dora dealing with that, like mourning the loss of a mentor, of a support, of a mother, you know?
Especially you, because you said like the story in your head about Sister Dora was that she was like kind of like the last of her tribe due to a massacre, and then like, you know, kind of a flow into like losing a mentor. Like I could definitely see like, you know, just kind of spitballing here, but like, you know, the growth of Sister Dora, like God forbid something happens to Mother Superior in season 3, and then you know, Sister Dora in season 3 would be like, that would be kind of like her blowing up her character, and you know, like her backstory, and not like her villain era, but her like, oh, everyone's going down era,
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
absolutely. That, yeah.
And would you like, so would you want Sister Dora to come back for season 3?
I would love that. I've had dreams of that. Yeah, I've had dreams of it. I mean, just for so many of the reasons for what I said before, but just being able to represent Sister Dora as she is. You know, Simon threw me the ball and I caught it and was like, this is my golden egg. Like, I will protect it. I will bring as much light to it as I can. And I brought myself fully. I'm dedicated. I was dedicated fully to Sister Dora. Made a playlist, you know, for her. Like, I really, really wanted to bring as much of myself into this character as I could. And so for season 3, I hope, you know, that I'm able to. And I'm, regardless of what happens, I'm just grateful that I'm able to still bring her alive, you know? So.
Well, I mean, if you give me Simon's number, I'll give him a call and be like, hey, listen, here are my demands. Okay.
Yeah.
Or I will show up to the studio every single day.